If you are considering a new roof, there are a couple of options in how you can pay for this thing. Now, you could throw out cash, but not a lot of people have that. A more common option is going to be to finance the roof, but a third option is an insurance claim if you feel that your roof may qualify. Insurance used to be a much less complicated process. Over the last 5 to 10 years, it has become, well, let's say anything but that at times. There are contractors, attorneys, public adjusters, all revolved around this process. It can seem confusing, daunting, overwhelming at times. Luckily, you've got Roofing Explained and our roofing expert, Mr. Mike Feazel, right here to simplify this process for you and to give you the information you need to make the best decision for your home. Mike, this is something that me and you have both had a lot to do with over the last 5 years, so I'm excited to be able to talk about insurance and roofing with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It used to be a lot more simple than it is. It's become a lot more complicated in the last, let's say, 5 or 10 years, hasn't it?
Extremely complicated.
Yeah.
Because there weren't nearly as many claims. And yes, the weather's changed, but it hasn't changed that much. When I entered the industry and even up to the early 2000s, about 3% of roofs were replaced by insurance. Hail and hurricanes, primarily. And obviously tornadoes, fire, but primarily hail and hurricanes. Today, it's about 1 in 3 roofs is bought by insurance. And that's primarily from door knocking, canvassing, and, to the insurance industry had created a situation where contractors could go take advantage of it. Hey, you're missing a shingle. They don't make that shingle anymore. They can't match it. I'll get you a whole new roof.
Yes.
You don't wait until your paint is peeling and then call your insurance company and say, come paint my house.
Yeah.
But the policies were not written. There was a lot of loopholes within the policies. That is all changing quickly, almost as we speak over the last few months. Definitely here in 2024, the insurance industry's had enough. They're shutting it down. They're using AI, aerial imaging, and things of that nature. And they're also changing their policies. So the roofing industry is about ready to undergo a lot of change. But if there's damage, then you need a good contractor to come out and inspect that roof. But I would not use an insurance specialist, a restoration specialist, because they're all going to say that there's damage. And there's a lot of roofing companies that's all they do. And they're not traveling. In the old days, stormers traveled to where the hailstorm hit, where the hurricane hit. And so there was absolutely major damage there.
Yes.
Today you have companies that kind of are a retail company, but they're not really doing much retail business. They're mostly traveling around the city when a thunderstorm hits and there's 40-mile-an-hour winds and looking for a shingle that's blown off or a few shingles blown off.
So I think when somebody comes to that door following a storm, a big storm in Florida, or it could be a tornado or a hailstorm anywhere, whatever it might be anywhere in the country, I believe that a homeowner can seem like this is too good to be true. I know I pay my premiums, but they're going to be telling me that I can get a new roof for the price of a deductible, maybe $500, $1,000, or even 2% of your mortgage, depending on maybe it's a hurricane claim, whatever it is. I've often said in life, if it's too good to be true, it is, right?
Yes.
What is the real story behind the promises that these door-to-door contractors in the restoration space are making? Two-part question. Number one, is it possible? And number two, what are the consequences both to the individual and the community for all of these roofs being bought if that's the case?
At the end of the day, we're all paying. Insurance rates are going through the roof, literally. Here in Florida, people have had to move out of the state or not pay for insurance. It's either they pay for insurance or they pay for their meds. Older people, retired, on a fixed income. So ultimately, we always end up paying the cost. I think many of these contractors came into the industry when the storming was blowing up, so they really don't know a different world. They don't understand what the world used to look like, which I think was a better, again, if you have damage, the insurance should pay for your roof.
Yes.
But in my opinion, if you have damage, you have damage. If it's a hailstorm, that hailstorm would have damaged your car, dented your garage door, knocked some windows out, your siding, right? It's a real hailstorm. A real hailstorm is golf ball size hail. Now, I know that roofers say, hey, I can get, dime size hail bought. Yeah, but there's no damage to the roof.
Yeah.
Or it's really, really old hail. And quarter size hail doesn't cause damage to a roof, even an old roof. It's going to knock a few granules off. The shingles don't burn through like the old organic shingles used to burn through, and you'd actually, if you knocked a bunch of the granules off and exposed the asphalt, it would burn through that shingle. That was a problem. It doesn't happen with fiberglass shingles. So the industry's it has changed a lot, and to the detriment of the property owners. And there's a lot of great contractors that are doing it, but they've kind of gone with the flow, and I understand that, but that flow is changing. And so the insurance companies aren't going to tolerate it. You'll also put yourself in a position, if you're just trying to get a free roof, where that's a mark against you and you risk getting your policy canceled, especially if you get that roof bought, you really didn't need it, and now you get a flood. Your basement gets flooded. And now you really need them.
Yeah.
So
it's my understanding that if you have because I see this a lot, people need to understand this about the roofing space. You mentioned the restoration contractors, those door-to-door guys who come into a community or into an area following a major storm. It's not just your roof being bought, but the community itself. If you have an entire neighborhood where this is happening, where that's going to increase the price of the premiums in that neighborhood. It's not just your roof, but what your neighbors are doing around you.
Yeah, and not just a neighborhood. It's more of a regional thing, but yes.
So it's okay. So yeah, but these storms, they're going to come in. There's a whole conference devoted to this stuff.
Yeah.
And these people come in.
And rightfully so. I think it's great they have that conference. There is a place for storming.
Yeah.
And again, we're in Hurricane Central, right? We're in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
One just went over yesterday or came in and hit Tampa. So in a catastrophe like that, you need contractors that are going to come in. The local contractors cannot handle that amount of work. Mm-hmm. So absolutely need that element of the industry. Same with a major hailstorm. It's when they go out to the fringe of that storm and it's not 20 missing shingles or 50 missing shingles and water coming in the home. It's one missing shingle.
Yeah.
And the manufacturers are changing the colors of the shingles. That color is no longer available. There are now matching services out there, the whole 9 yards, right? You know the game. And hey, the insurance company, there's a loophole here. There's a matching policy in this state, and that shingle isn't made. I'll get you a new roof.
Yeah, and
it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, the matching rule, meaning that hey, all the shingles have to match, but then they don't because the manufacturer has discontinued that shingle. So now by law, hey, we have to go ahead and we have to replace the entire roof because there was a small portion of it that can't be repaired.
And that was the insurance industry leaning in and being customer centric for many years and doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And because of that, now they've gone the other direction. Now, I also stand in the shoes of the contractor where I literally have been in a storm, and literally on the other side of the tracks, I was paid one price for this home per square, same insurance carrier. On the other side of the tracks, a rougher neighborhood, half a mile away, and they weren't paying the same. Well, that's because of the tool Xactimate. They're looking at cost of replacements in a very affluent area. It's going to be more to replace a roof typically than a not so affluent area. The contractors that service those areas are going to charge different prices. They might be paying their labor force differently. Does that make it fair or right? Not necessarily, but that's the way the software works. It doesn't seem fair when I'm the same company wanting to provide for both. And so you go to battle with that contractor trying to get them their roof in the less affluent area. Most of the time, the insurance adjuster, they're going to negotiate with you. You're being reasonable. So anyway, it's gotten out of hand in my opinion. I think what is coming down the pike now is I think we're going to not go back to 3%. I think it'll look more like 10%, but 20% is going to be taken off the table.
Yeah.
20%. So that'll be good for the homeowner. It's going to be good for insurance rates, and it's the right thing in my opinion.
But a homeowner who has lived in their home for, let's say, 20 to 30 years may only file a claim.
Maybe never.
One or two times, I was going to say, or perhaps never. So the process itself can seem intimidating, especially when you have oftentimes a young man coming to your door and explaining to you that this is how I do this all the time. I did it for your neighbor. I can do it for you. I wonder, what is the right frame of mind for a homeowner to have when they have had a major storm? They've got multiple people knocking on their door, promising them the world, because it's not just going to be one company.
Yes.
They're going to come home each day, and there's going to be a business card that's slid in there giving them a promise. I just question, and I'm curious in your experience, how should a homeowner approach this? Should they just take the shot in the dark and say, hey, let me see if I can go ahead and get this thing approved?
Yep.
Or do they need to be more deliberating on this thing? I'm just trying to put myself in the homeowner's shoes here, Mike.
So if I'm a homeowner in a storm-ravaged area, a hurricane or a major hailstorm, not because a thunderstorm hit my area and now there's people coming through knocking on my door telling me I can get a free roof. Just tell those people to go away.
Yeah.
There's no discussion. I'm missing a shingle. You get me a free roof. I don't trust you already. Get off my porch. 100% of the time. Major hurricane. My roof is totaled. Right, I'm calling my insurance company. They're going to try to get somebody out here to do emergency waterproofing, tarps, whatever's needed. You've got to keep the water from coming into the structure and causing damage, mold, all those things. But if I have a few shingles blowing off, I can stick my head in the attic. I can pay an engineering firm to come in and look in the attic, or a home inspector. If I don't have water coming in, or if there's a little bit of water, go up and have somebody go on the roof and temporary that roof in. And if it's very minor damage, let the storm pass. Let 12 or 18 months go by. You can easily if a few shingles blow off your roof, you're fine. Just temporary that roof and wait for everything to pass and get on a local contractor's book of business.
Okay.
Right. And don't get caught up in the whole mess. You could even talk to that contractor, a great contractor with a reputation in a market where there's a hailstorm that hits or a hurricane that hits. They can be backed up a year literally within the first 30 days of the storm.
Yes.
Everybody wants to use them. So great, get on that list. That contractor will come out, watertight that roof. We've done it. They'll watertight the roof, and now you get put on the list. Gives them time to work with the insurance company, do whatever needs to be done, and just don't be in a big rush.
Now, let's just say it's not just a shingle or two that's blown off.
Yep.
And we have somebody who now they're in a storm, Mike, and they've gone through a legitimate hurricane, tropical storm, tornado,
right,
hail event that has really ruined the home.
Yep.
They inevitably right now, they're qualifying to take advantage of those premiums they've paid on time. Maybe they've paid in for 15 years, and now's the time where you need that insurance.
Yep.
I'm sorry, but what would the process look like? Because if you've never gone through it, it's like, what in the heck is about to happen right here? You've done this many times.
Yes.
What does that look like for a homeowner?
Major damage, water coming in the home, drywall falling. You're calling your insurance company and you have a catastrophe, they're going to send the teams out.
Okay.
They're going to have pre-approved contractors, and that's what they do. They're restoration contractors, not just roofing, not just siding, full general contractors that have the teams to come in, temporary that roof in, start drying the home out from any water, right? Dehumidifiers, fans, pulling up carpet so the wood doesn't, the wood flooring underneath it doesn't start to buckle and rot, mold. So that insurance companies, they will have those relationships for extreme situations like that.
So is it your opinion then to call the insurance company, or
Yes.
because there's going to be contractors, Mike, that are going to disagree with you here, and they're going to say you should be calling the contractor. Let us deal with your insurance company.
Yep.
We are the ones who will do this.
Yep.
You're saying call your carrier, call the individual you've been paying.
All of those contractors you're telling me that say to call them, they can't. They don't have somebody to do the water extraction, the mold remediation if needed, the air handlers. All of the dehumidifiers. They're not set up for a home that has been opened up and water coming in. They're not set up for that. They can say they are, but they're not. Unless they're a full restoration contractor. I've got friends that are in the restoration business, and they don't just do roofing, they don't just do siding or dinged windows and try to get all the windows replaced on the home because one or two windows has a ding on it. They are full restoration contractors. They'll rebuild the home if there's a fire. That's the contractor that the insurance company will send out to you in a catastrophe situation.
But with Roof Maxx, and that's where I want to end, because Roof Maxx is doing a lot right now to help combat this across the country. Because if you can extend the life of a roof and you can continue to have coverage on that roof, then it would stand to reason less money being paid out by carrier, lower premiums for the consumer,
Yes.
and a roof has its life back. Is that what is possible? Can you really make a dent in this thing with Roof Maxx and make a difference for Americans?
Roof Maxx is to a degree now. The broader thing that's going to happen, rejuvenation, we started the industry, we've proven that it's effective, and now there's buy-in at the very high levels, like I said, Blackstone, LivCore, the largest roof management, the largest roof asset manager in the world. But the market is just starting to know what rejuvenation is. And that's our job on the marketing side. And we're expanding the companies in very heavy growth mode. Within 5 years, rejuvenation is a household thing. Roof Maxx is a household name. With that comes competitors, which is a good thing. And I'd say a decade out, everybody gets their roof rejuvenated before you don't install a new roof and then wait for it to die and tear it off and send it to the landfill. At some point in that life cycle, 1, 2, or 3 times, the average roof will be rejuvenated in a decade. And at that point, this is accepted by the insurance industry. It just becomes the norm. You don't install new asphalt driveway and not have it seal coated every few years. You don't put on a new deck without doing a Thompson's water seal or some type of a protectant. You don't install any wood structure without putting paint on it and repainting and sealing and sealing and sealing, right? It's everything should be maintained that can be maintained. Yeah. Asphalt roofs could not be maintained in the past, and now with rejuvenation and, in our case, Roof Maxx, it can be.
Well, let's take a homeowner then who's watching this, whose roof is 5 to 10 years old then, Mike. Right now, it's not law anywhere that a carrier requires you to have your roof rejuvenated. I also use the word restored. Because I like the word restored, your roof restored back. Yep. But it's not law right now, and carriers are not requiring it. However, though, if I'm sitting there
and I doubt it ever will be.
But if you're a homeowner and now you're sitting there and you're going, okay, well, I know I'm a few years away at that 7-8 year mark from needing my roof to be replaced, or from I always look at it kind of like my transmission in my Chevy. When is that going to go out? Right. You're thinking to yourself, I know this cost is coming up around the corner. Are we saying that it is time now to begin to look at the technology with restoring and rejuvenation as the opportunity to extend the life of the roof before there ever is a problem?
That's the whole idea, right? Anything that's maintained, right? You don't wait until your engine's knocking and making noises to change the oil. Mm-hmm. Right? It's something you do on a consistent basis. The best time to treat the roof is once the granules start to shed off into the gutters. And that means the roof is now undergoing stress during contraction and expansion. Enough of the petrochemical oils have dried out, evaporated, that now that roof is undergoing stress. And as it undergoes stress, as the temperature rises and falls throughout the day, the coating starts to shed off, exposes more asphalt, more of the oil evaporates. We're just putting the shingle, the oils back in, a plant-based, a natural oil, not a petrochemical oil, back into the shingle so that it can fully contract and expand again, so the roof can move, which is critical. Everything has to contract and expand. But asphalt goes from very malleable, very flexible and waterproof to the other extreme, all the way to extremely brittle, a pothole on the road. Right? Now that's a process over time. We're just taking it all the way back to the day that the roof was installed, to the flexibility. Now, we're not reapplying granules, the ceramic coating. Mm-hmm. We're not doing that. But we also won't treat a roof if 1/3 or more of the granules have been removed, degranulation.
Got it. So we're not actually treating the pothole at this point, but what we're doing is trying to prevent that pothole from forming in the first place here.
Yes. Think of it between the road is perfect and a pothole. What happens? Spider webbing happens. Mm-hmm. Small cracks become bigger cracks, eventually become potholes. We're hitting it when it's starting to crack.
Got it.
And there's many projects that we come out to, and it's right before the pothole. If it's right before the pothole, we're going to get a treatment. Mm-hmm. If we can get it when the cracks are fairly large, but before the pothole, we can get 2 treatments. If we can get it when the cracks are starting to just be hairline cracks, as an example with the road, we can get 3 treatments.
Got it.
And we're starting to believe now, and we're not long enough into this, that we can maybe get as many as 4 treatments or more.
Wow.
So, but for now we just say up to 3 treatments, and for most customers, 1 or 2 treatments is good. Most people, all they care about is getting that extra 5 years.
Yeah.
And trying to delay that pain for 5 years and either save up for a new roof or maybe another treatment.
Unfortunately, you mentioned it earlier that the cost is only going up. Inflation through the roof. The likelihood of somebody having $20,000 sitting around right now is just very unlikely, is to say the least.
Yeah.
And I think that for the average American, the biggest cost in their home is that roof. Yep. And if they can prolong the life of that shingle on top of it, you're speaking their language right now.
Right.
And there are hundreds of your contractors across the country that are offering this rejuvenation, this restoring of the roof, that you can prevent these costly insurance claims, the costly process, the time of it all, using a Roof Maxx product, because the technology is now here, which wasn't 10 years ago. You didn't have the opportunity to have this, but any major city in any major market, there's people, you can go to simply go to roofmax.com, and you can find that stuff right there for somebody to help prevent this process from happening in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, and I think you're going to make a real dent in this, and that's what I'm happy homeowners are having the chance to hear here, because when you're talking about filing an insurance claim, it can be like, what am I doing? You got so many people that are talking to you. But what we've heard here from Mike, I think, is what you need to hear first. You might be able to prevent that from ever happening with a Roof Maxx type product. And if you do, and you do need to file that claim, there are all sorts of options that are going to be thrown in front of you. But you can rely on that carrier, giving them a call, figuring out what they need to do and who they're going to send out to you. You maybe want to make sure that you're working with somebody that can take care of the entirety of your home, not just the roof, and really take time to know what is going to go on your roof. We've talked about upgrades here. Pay a little bit extra to get the right product on your roof. Don't fall for the gimmick of a free roof is going to be for you. If it sounds too good to be true, folks, it is. And somebody is going to pay the price, and it may even be you with the cheap products that you're going to receive. So I appreciate you, Mike, explaining this. There's a lot to break down right here in the insurance claim process and what Roof Maxx is doing to help prevent that from ever being a thing for homeowners in the future.
That's the goal.
That's it, man. Thanks a lot here on Roofing Explained. As always, our roofing expert, Mr. Mike Feazel, right here. We'll see you on the next episode.